Hello and welcome. We're the Aussie Guys. I'll just put us on the screen. There we are. Yay. We are the Aussie Guys. I'm AJ. Here with me is Mr. Tig himself. Mr. Tig.
I'm over it. It's all over.
That's a bit naff. It's all last week.
It is very last week. It's going to be a good 12 months, though, ahead.
Come on. Try and be a St Kilda fan. It wouldn't be over in a week.
Well, I was actually thinking today, I was going to catch up with a couple of mates tomorrow, and I was thinking they follow the football far more than I do. And I was going to say to them, if you're a young player now, what club would you want to go to? Like, don't say Richmond because they've won 3 premierships and in the last 4 years. That's not. I'm talking about like an up and coming sort of club, a club you want to help out. You know, you can see big things. Mate, I'd pick St Kilda.
Oh yeah. Very much so. Very up and coming. Yep.
Yeah. And when was? Hey Matt.
Hey Matt.
When was the last time they won a premiership? Was 1960 something?
1966.
1966.
Before I was born.
That was the one where Darryl Bulldog was the captain, and he put on.
Yes.
He collected the trophy in the opposition's.
Correct.
A Collingwood jumper.
Collingwood. Yeah, it was very confusing because you look at the photos and you think, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, they won by a point.
If you know who Darryl Bulldog is.
Yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
Checked in yes, I know. Biden's got Georgia.
Yes, very, very good for a Falcons fan at the moment.
Very exciting.
Well, some Falcon fans anyway, maybe not all.
Well, exciting for the world.
Probably not all.
And I'll tell you, G, we won't really talk politics, but I'll tell you, the amount of kids at school who are talking about the US election, yes. I don't think I've ever seen this sort of engagement in politics, or especially international politics, ever. I
don't think I've seen it so much from anybody in general, of any age group. I know I've had some heated discussions about it over the last couple of months. One of them with my best mate.
Really?
Yeah. Well, everybody's entitled to who they think's great.
Sure.
I like discussions that are based in fact. Would be better than just hearsay and what he says.
Straight away,
fact checking is good.
Straight away, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
You want to talk fact? Oh, you've lost. You've lost seemingly 45% of the American population.
That's hard. That's hard to discuss with someone who believes everything that they hear. Basically,
yes.
So
correct. But let's move on to happier things. Yeah. Anyway,
but not talking so much about politics, but. The way I'm looking at it now is that in the fantasy leagues that I play in, unfortunately at the moment, I only lead in one. So that season's over. It's finished. Done.
What?
Done. I'm in front. That's it. No more games.
Yeah. Yep.
I've won.
And you know that league, the league where I'm in front?
Yes.
I must have cheated. Clearly.
Well, obviously. All the other ones that I'm losing in. And at one stage, we played a lot of them together. At one stage, it was like I was at the top of a lot of them. Now I'm like for some reason, I've lost 3 in a row. Like something just like 1 minute I'm in front and the next minute I'm like it just I'm not. So
you're getting found out. Your team is not as good as you think.
Yeah. Obviously, Donald Trump's never heard of 28-3.
Oh man, yeah. Falcon supporters might have something to say about ending the game when you would like it to end.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Not the only one.
No. So there was a game today where.
Sorry. I was going to say it's a bit like when you were a kid, and for some reason you go to the football. And your team would kick a goal, the first goal, and you go, blow the siren, like finish the game. Yeah, it's a bit like that. Wins the first state, and that's it. It's all over. Done. Stop counting.
That's right. Exactly. Someone who would have liked to have blown the quote-unquote siren or the whistle, I guess we're talking about, maybe the San Francisco 49ers, who fielded a team today that was just like, who?
Oh, really? I haven't watched the game today. I've been busy digging holes and getting the deck ready, mixing cement.
The Niners were heavily hit by injury and COVID. Obviously, George Kittle on IR, big news this week. Jimmy G on IR for 4 to 6. Deebo Samuel, I think, is on the COVID list.
Is there more players, like, just going through and setting my lineups this week?
Yep.
And also looking at the matchup of who I'm playing against. Is there more players on COVID this week?
Yeah.
You're right, Ganley. You've got to be at the what is it? At the front, at the end. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there more players on COVID this week than I've noticed before?
It's possible.
Okay. I'm finding it very unusual how players that must interact so much with other teammates, from a practice point of view and a playing point of view and a huddle point of view, and just in I don't know how they're doing the like looking at games and all the stuff that's going on indoors and all that. How not more guys don't have it?
Oh, I know. It's actually remarkable. And now that you've said that, we can probably have a wave of them. And I can see Ben is in our green room waiting to come on. But I'll just finish talking about Green Bay, San Francisco quickly. So Green Bay did it pretty easily, 34-17. They're now 6-2. They look like a powerhouse. Aaron Rodgers looks amazing. He threw 4 touchdowns. He's 24 touchdowns to 2 interceptions on the year. A-Rod.
But he's always been in sort of that realm, hasn't he? He's had his bat. He like the last couple of years, I suppose, haven't been the best for him. I don't know what his TD to interception ratio is over the last couple of years. But outside of that, he's always been pretty known as a guy that was part of the problem with he wouldn't throw to 50-50 balls, and he wouldn't give his wide receiver the opportunity to just out jump, because he didn't want to hurt. Well, as people said, he didn't want to hurt his numbers.
Oh, yeah. MVS, a pair of touchdowns today. Devontae Adams.
How many people started him?
Devontae Adams or MVS?
No, MVS.
Oh, I don't think many would have. And certainly it started off bad because MVS had a drop that Rodgers, I tell you drop one of Rodgers' balls, he just shook his head. He looked in the other direction. And you think, oof.
Yeah. He shakes his head a lot.
He does.
Something that he's done.
But, yeah. But MVS ended up with a pair of touchdowns. But the big story, 2 big stories, one which was a complete surprise, one which wasn't. The first one was Devontae Adams, who looks absolutely unstoppable at the moment. 10 catches for 173 and a touchdown.
I was going to say, I saw it 170-something. That's just he's a machine, isn't he? He really is.
And Richie James, G.
Richie James of the 49ers, Richie James.
Yeah. 9.
Punt return. Richie James,
yes,
punt return.
Richie James said to Devontae Adams, hold my beer. 9 for 184 and a touchdown.
No way.
Yeah. I'll bring Ben on. Hang on. Ben, how you doing?
I'll tell you what, I was getting pretty comfortable in the green room. It was
sorry about that.
Someone brought me a beer. I was rubbing my feet. It was great.
Mate, is there a hamper in there with nuts and fruit and some muffins or something like that?
No, just nuts and bolts and spanners.
So what room of the house are you actually in?
So this is the second baby's room is not quite ready to move in yet. So it's now a temporary office. So
your baby's got 2 rooms?
Well, no, he's got my bed at the minute, mate. He's a co-sleeper, so.
That doesn't work out well, mate. Let me tell you, from past experiences, it's just doesn't work well.
It didn't work out well with my wife. I mean, now I'm not even sleeping with her anymore. So
Oh, that's how you get out of it. Noah, do you want to come sleeping in Dad's bed?
I tell you what, AJ, though, Richie James was phenomenal today. Like, I think a lot of people have, had him a little bit in the background. Like, he's a guy who's flashed a little bit. He just puts everything on the field, and that's what he did today. On a day when really the Niners offense was horrendous across the board. And Nick Mullins really, really did struggle. I mean, the interception that he threw was
Jimmy G like?
Oh, I think it was worse. It was literally like one of those where he was actually in the pocket for a little bit. I mean, they lost Trent Williams, so I think Justin School at left tackle was horrendous. Couldn't deal with Preston Smith, and obviously Zadarius Smith on the other side against Michael Finch. It was just a massacre. But it was literally one of those where he saw Preston Smith right there, and instead of taking a stack, he just went, ah! And threw the ball. Like, literally, it's one of the worst interceptions I've seen. It was no coming back from there. But Richie James was outstanding, and I think it beggars belief. I think that somebody put on Twitter, imagine all the targets that Trent Taylor and Dante Pettis have had over the last few years. Imagine if they'd have gone to Richie James. It's a good point. Like, I mean, I know a few of it was garbage time stuff at the end, but you could just see there and then that he's an NFL receiver.
Well, I have a bit of problem with that if all these targets went to, because you have to look at the fact that, mate, I think Cole Shanahan knows football, and there's probably there could be a good reason that Richie James hasn't been getting the looks. I do have a bit of a problem with when people say that, because, mate, how many people actually have him on from a fantasy point of view? How many people have him on your fantasy lineup? Unless you're playing in like a 24 league team, you might have him on there. But outside of doing punt returns and popping up every now and then, no one talks about him.
But
maybe they might now.
The interesting thing with that, though, is and Kyle Shanahan can scheme the hell out of anyone, particularly with the run game and the screens and all the stuff that they run. But I mean, how many times did Jimmy G throw the ball beyond about 10, 15 yards? I mean, Nick Mullins today, quite clearly, was doing a bit more of that. And early it was all right. I think the first two receptions to Richie James were sort of 30, 40 yards. So he's not going to get those targets, is he, if Jimmy G's there, because Jimmy G doesn't make those throws, because he probably usually hits a defensive back as well. So I think, it'll be interesting. It's one of those where maybe it's because he's working with the second squad or the practice squad, so he's got that chemistry a little bit more, so.
I'll just give you a point of evidence. Tell me what position, you watch the game, Ben, so you'll know, but G, you tell me what position River Cracraft plays.
Tight end.
Oh, how did you know?
Mate, this is stuff I have to know. Just
ghosts of draft past, I think.
I saw him catch. Well, actually, it was overturned, but we thought he caught a touchdown. And I thought, who the expletive is that? I had no idea. Cracraft, I've never seen him before. Ross Dwelly was supposedly going to be.
I go deep, mate. I go deep on,
Jordan Reed was activated. Jordan Reed was activated just before the game, I think, and he went in for at least a few plays. But River Cracraft, there you go.
All over it, mate. All over. You can't get me. Raven,
see you later. I think it's very early or very late, what would it be? It would be very late.
Whereabouts? West Coast or East Coast? You'd be
probably West Coast, Raven.
Well, it must be West Coast. Yeah, East Coast you'd be getting up soon. So.
Oh yeah. Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Richie James, Ganley just posted here. I'll just put it here. Yes, it was the largest day for COVID in the US. More cases. Speaking of COVID, they had the biggest number of cases today.
I spoke to. Well, I was texting with Kyle.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say from the FF Fellas, but it's now the
Fantasy Smackdown.
Fantasy Smackdown. Thanks, AJ. So I was talking to him this morning, and I just said, mate, WTF, get out now. I'm sure we have room for 2 more for him and his wife.
Yeah.
And he said, no, he's not too worried about all that side of it, but he did say that more concerning is the COVID he feels in America at the moment that's out of control. And he said even like Illinois, I think it would not doing too much of a bad job about it, but he said today was the highest rate of contraction and the highest rate of death that they've had.
Ooh. Yeah.
And he did say that a couple of people that he knows now, friends of his, have it. So I think once you start having people that you know start to get it that are close, then it starts to sort of maybe hit home. And I think that's maybe part of the problem with populations as big as the United States, 300 million plus or whatever it is. And they look at the numbers and go, yeah, but it's only X amount. We've got 300 million people here.
Right.
And maybe in smaller populations like ours, New Zealand, that have really cracked down on it, it's maybe because numbers seem a lot bigger to smaller populations. I don't know. Maybe it's just a whole mindset. But yeah, he's more concerned about the COVID at the moment. But, mate, I looked at Flight Tracker.
Oh yeah,
I know it's got nothing to do with it, but this is eventually this is going to hit the NFL, and it has hit the NFL. But you look at Flight Tracker, and it's like nothing's changed.
Really?
Oh, it's just planes everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, I mean, the other thing as well in the US is that it's obviously the start of the university year as well in the fall. So, all those universities are, people are driving across the country to, start university, and even watching some of the college football, some of them have got plenty of people in the stands, not really, keeping apart from each other either. So, yeah, it's like it's a bit of a token gesture at the minute over there.
Yes. That's a bit of a segue into some fines that the NFL doled out this week. The Raiders were fined $500,000. Gruden, $150K. And they were stripped of a 6th-round draft pick for COVID violations.
Okay.
Yep. Well, Gruden, you see him on the sideline. He's rarely got his mask on. What's that?
For what exactly? For the fact, well, the mask thing is more for. It's almost like propaganda, isn't it? It's like it looks like we're doing the right thing when we're on TV, mate. Because no one else is wearing a mask except the coaches, and the coaches deal with the players all the time.
Oh yeah, I know. So, that's right. Yeah, sorry, Andrew, we have gone a bit heavy on the politics this time round.
Mate. But there's things happening in the world, not just football. That
what can you do?
Yeah. Sometimes it sneaks in there. It's just what's happening. It's what's going on. The country's electing. I don't call him the most powerful man in the world. I call him the most dangerous man in the world because mate, he has more power than anybody in history. So, yeah.
What was that?
It's you've got what have you got? Siri on your Apple?
Yep.
I don't know what the hell we call this chick on Samsung. Gloria. I think her name's Karen.
Karen.
She's very annoying. But
I'm not wearing a mask, she says.
But the thing keeps asking me if I want to. She needs more information about something. I have no idea what she's talking about. She just comes on every now and then. I don't know. Once your phone hits 2 years, weird things start to happen, mate. Once it's out of warranty, your warranties up.
Falls over immediately.
Yeah. So that's some weird stuff.
Man.
It's like the second contract for a running back, isn't it? It's like as soon as the contract is
it's
the end.
Over. That's it.
That's right.
It's like my phone just hit 30.
Right. Monday Night Football this week, gents. We are in for a cracker. Jets, Patriots. Both teams will enter the game not having thrown a touchdown pass for 3 straight games.
What's the interception ratio though?
I
know Cam's on fire. Cam's on fire in interception.
Literally on fire.
It's like you watch Sam Darnold and you look at him and you watch him. He made a throw, was it last week when he lobbed it over the head of one corner or a linebacker into the arms of I'm trying to think I don't know if it was geez, I don't even know who the receivers are at the Jets.
Crowder, maybe. Crowder's the only good
one.
No,
Crowder wasn't playing. It's a game Crowder was out. But the precision of the ball was absolutely perfect. And then you watch a couple of throws later and go, dude, it's not so much he he just doesn't see people. You know, like the defenders. Like he threw it straight down the defender's throat. And it wasn't like he just popped into his line of vision. He was standing there like a statue and just threw it straight to him.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Mims and Berrios.
Yeah, I know Mims and Berrios, but it wasn't either of those two. So if Matt can come up with who the other guy is.
Smith.
Who else playing there? Who was that?
Jeff Smith.
It might have been mate. I'm not. Jets are a hard team to pay attention to be honest.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest watches of me each week is to watch a Jets game and sit there for 40 minutes of the condensed version and then try and enjoy it. To be honest,
and I think
Frank Gore as well. I love Frank Gore, but what's the point in handing the ball off to Frank Gore when you're 0-7?
Mate, I'll give
who's the
mate,
winner of the most generic name in the NFL award.
Yeah, mate. What's happened to Chris Herndon this year? I expected so much more out of Chris Herndon, and he's done absolutely nothing. He got dropped in one of our leagues, and I picked him up straight away. I picked him up straight away.
I know. I saw that.
And I'll just stash him. If he goes somewhere else, he might be something. And you know what tight ends are like. And I thought he was going to be a good tight end. So, you know, he's still got another 3 years until he can get good and prove me right.
Darren Waller line. The Darren Waller line.
That's what we're going to call it from now on.
Yep.
Is Sam Darnold the starting quarterback next year, do you think?
If they can get somebody else, no.
It's probably dependent on. I mean, there's going to be a coaching change for sure, right?
Mate, would anybody turn up if there wasn't?
Man, Trevor Lawrence is going to stay in school. Or he's going to say no deal. He's going to do a Eli Manning. The Jets with the number 1 pick Trevor Lawrence, and he's going to go nope, nope, I'm not doing it.
I know you have just from what's this? What's the word I'm looking for? Wrapping my head.
I would.
I'm trying to wrap my head around a PH word, which is hard.
A PH word. Physiological.
No.
Psychological.
Nah.
Physical.
No. But anyway, no. But look, if you're as a player and you turn around and say, I don't want to go there, how does that look? How does it go down in a dressing room?
In a locker room?
Like if in a locker room, locker room. If you turn up to another team knowing that, mate, if things aren't too good, this guy's not willing to take it on.
Well, it's interesting. We've had a case of that this week with, in a way, with Marquise Brown, haven't we? So Marquise Brown obviously first round pick was he last year, and
Yes.
The Ravens.
He what?
This week, when they lost to the Steelers, he came out and he said, "Why have a Ferrari in the garage if you're never going to drive it?" or something like that.
Right.
Basically, making a comment saying.
So who's he talking about? Is he talking about that they should
himself.
give J.K. Dobbins more of the football?
Well, no.
He's talking about himself.
But he's a player now that has obviously, he was a rookie last year, but now he's had enough, and he said, throw me the damn ball down the field. I'm a number one, a round one pick. I mean, someone like Sam Darnold hasn't done that. If Sam Darnold had come out saying, look, I'm trying to win games for this team, but I can't do it because I'm not getting any plays that I can work with, things aren't working, we run on the same thing, then I think people respect him for doing that. I certainly respect Marquise Brown for doing it, but does it go down well?
Mate, I don't know if calling yourself a Ferrari dude is the right thing to do. Don't put yourself in a status that you haven't earned yet because you believe that that's what you are. Maybe there's a lot better ways to go about what you just said, Ben, without calling yourself a Ferrari.
Look, I completely agree, G, and I think it was the analogy that just cropped up this week. But
yeah,
I mean,
did he say it though himself?
Yeah, it was Marcus.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
He said it. So, I mean, there's probably a responsibility on Sam Darnold to say something now, isn't there? 0-7 and whatever they are.
Well,
maybe he's working out that he's not actually that good himself. Maybe this is, I don't know. I really can't answer that. I'd have a lot more respect for a guy that if you said it, that, look, mate, I'm doing everything you ask me to do as a football player, and I understand it's a team sport, but, I need some more opportunity to prove what I can do, not call myself a Ferrari. There's a lot better ways of going about saying exactly the same thing without. But I suppose that's the whole nature of being, being a top athlete is that you have that confidence and that's what you think about yourself, I
was going to say you have that self-belief for sure.
So,
yeah, exactly.
There's better ways of saying it though, I think.
Yes. Matt said, see if you have a Datsun 180 in the garage.
Hey, mate, the Datsun 180 two-door, maybe the orange or the mustard. I can't decide. I think I'm more the mustard. Put a big set of tub it out at the back, mate. Put it, woof.
They don't build them like that anymore.
They don't,
literally do not build them like that anymore.
No, they don't. And that's made out of metal. They're made out of plastic these days.
Yeah, that's right. The Bucks have activated Antonio Brown for Week 9. We're going to see AB back on the park. What's the effect on the Bucks offense, guys?
I'm hoping it's a good effect on one of my fantasy teams, but really? I don't know if I'm going to start
him. To who? To Chris Godwin. I wonder about Chris Godwin.
No, I don't have Chris Godwin shares. I have Mike Evans shares in a fair few places.
Yeah.
But I've picked up Antonio Brown just in one league because that was the only league he was available in. And I don't know if I'm going to start. I want to start him.
Oh, you have to. But Mike Evans, you have to.
You think – no, we're talking about Antonio Brown, aren't we?
Oh, no, you can't start him.
You can't start him?
I don't think so.
Is it the first week is the week should you start him? Because you'd be kicking yourself if he goes for like 100 and a touch.
And, it'll be just like Tom Brady to sort of say, welcome to the team.
That's the whole point. That's what I mean. We saw what he did in his first game for the Patriots. What was it? I think it was only was it 50 odd yards or something in a touch? I think in his first game for the Patriots. Was it against the Dolphins? Am I getting that right? Down in Miami?
Yeah, that's right, G. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of that's sort of what you're going to get out of the guy, isn't it? Yeah, and Brady wants him. He's been pushing risky for him. Maybe he wore the TB12 cap to the interview.
Really?
Yeah, wait, dude, you're doing everything right.
Can I just remind you, G, that his first game for the Patriots was also his last game for the Patriots?
Yes.
Also, has to be taken into consideration.
True. But if I get him for the one game, mate, it wins me the week.
That's
you've answered your own question, right? If you're going to start him this week because
who do you start him? Who do you start him over though? Like,
well, it depends.
No, but I mean, like, how far? Like, well, everybody says it depends who you got. Well, that's obvious because everybody's got different people. But at what point do we hit on the wide receiver chart, on the depth chart? Do you then put him in? Is there anybody in the top? There's probably nobody in the top 12 you start him over. Is there anybody in the top 24 wide receivers? Is there any? Does it take you to the top 36? Is he your number 3? Is there? Well,
I think the Saints have the third best run defense in the league, so they're a little bit more way down in the passing defense. So you would argue that there should be options for Brown to see 4 or 5 targets at least this week. So that puts him in the play as maybe a flex option, do you think?
Yes, I think I'd probably look at that. That's where I'd put him, Ben, as a flex.
Yeah. For
sure. Mate, he only needs 5 targets for him in his first game, mate. He could. And I think he's the type of guy too that he has been sitting on the couch doing nothing, I don't think. He doesn't seem like that type of bloke.
No.
He seems like he's got a bit of AD&D about him. Is that right? AD&D?
Yeah. Yes,
AHD?
Yeah.
AD&D. That he seems very hyperactive type of person.
Yeah.
So
who does it hurt?
I think it might.
Scotty Miller is probably the first guy to really good the last 3 weeks. He's gonna feel a bit unlucky, I reckon.
That's a really hard question for me because I reckon Scotty Miller has been looking better than Chris Godwin, and I also think Brady has shown a great deal of trust in Miller.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be. Yeah, I agree with Ben. He's the one that's going to be hurt. I think he's going to be hurt the most, only because I think that at the moment I think he's doing more for Brady than Chris Godwin is. So maybe in the end, the person that gets hurt the most is Chris Godwin.
Well, Godwin hasn't been playing.
Yes, he has. He's been on the park.
Not much.
No, yeah, but he has been there. But he hasn't been there because maybe he's hurt. But I think Brady's looking Scotty Miller's way. Just have a look. Go back and have a look at. I think they had cameras in there during the preseason, and I was watching a lot of the preseason footage because I was watching what Gronk had to say. Mate, he was just having a great old time. But you watch the practice, and mate, Scotty Miller was the one who kept bobbing up with the ball.
Okay. Interesting.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well.
I'll give you. I got Antonio Brown in my team. Okay. Now these are the other wide receivers I have in this squad for this week that I have to choose from.
Okay.
DJ Chark.
Ooh. Yeah.
Claypool.
Luton's playing, isn't he? Jake Luton. So.
That's why at the moment DJ Chark's sitting on my bench.
Yep.
I've
Claypool
got Chase Claypool.
Yep.
Calvin Ridley, who's questionable at the moment.
Yep.
Sterling Shepard, also questionable, but I think both of them will play. And Mike Evans.
Ooh.
So Mike Evans, Sterling Shepard, Calvin Ridley, Chase Claypool at the moment is in my flex position. So we play three running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a flex in this league.
Okay. They're pretty good wide receivers, Gee. Man. So
that's probably why I'm second in this league and not first, like someone I'm talking to. So who do you take? Who would you take out of there then to put Antonio Brown in?
Is Calvin Ridley healthy? I know he had a foot sprain, I think.
Okay, just say he was. Okay, you probably take him. You probably take him out if he wasn't looking like he's playing. But you're never going to take him out if he's healthy.
No way.
So that will leave us down to Sterling. You're not going to take me out for Mike Evans, obviously.
No.
So you got Sterling Shepard and Chase Claypool. Now, Chase Claypool, even in a bad week last week, still gave you, I think, in standard leagues, it was 8.2. So in PPR, it was probably maybe in the low teens, maybe.
Yep.
And Sterling Shepard's the best receiver that the Giants have.
No. Slayton.
Mate, Daniel Jones has to go and learn how to throw a deep ball better because I reckon Slayton had at least 3 TDs.
I know.
Lost on the weekend. He was wide open so many times running down the field. And one time he was so wide open that Daniel Jones didn't even see him.
It was hard to watch.
He looked his way and didn't stay there long enough with him and then moved to the right. And Slayton was gone. He had nobody within 20 yards of him.
And a reminder that I came on this show last week and had Daniel Jones as the guy that I was happy about taking as quarterback. Within a week, that's probably been totally debunked. I mean, I feel like the pass for the 2-point conversion at the end was probably worse. No way should he have ever even given Winfield the chance. I mean, I thought it was PI, but at the same time, he should have never even given the chance. But I feel
the ball should have been out of his hand half a second quicker.
Yes.
Yeah. And they said that you could see it watching it. It's not like they told you anything that you should have already known.
No.
But I feel like that Daniel Jones looks like a rookie right now. Like he looks like he's in his first year. And really, I mean, I think the guys on Monday Night Football were singing Joe Judge's praises a little bit about how he's got the Giants a lot more competitive this year. And, I mean, they've also changed their entire offensive line and a lot of other things. They've spent a bit of money. But I haven't seen any real effect on Daniel Jones. And, I mean, some of the play calling from Jason Garrett on third down was just almost like give it up. Like, I think there was a third. They were down by whatever it was, down by 8 with about 4 minutes left, 3rd and 11, and he checks down to Dion Lewis. He wasn't even going to get 5 yards, never mind 11. Like, I feel like part of it's not his fault, but also, because he does have talent. So I'm not going to be too hard on him, but he definitely needs somebody to just, put a rocket up his, Jaxie, really.
Yeah. I don't know if he needs a rock. I think he knows. I think you can see that he knows what gets away from him. I think he's smart. The feeling that I get about him is that he can self-learn. That's just the feeling I get at Daniel. Now, whether or not that's not going to make him a great quarterback, because if you can't hit guys that are wide open and you're overthrowing them, and not just overthrowing them. I mean, not Jimmy G Super Bowl overthrow. I mean, overthrowing that the guy's got no chance of getting near the ball.
Yeah.
He really, I don't know. He should be making those throws now, even in his second year. They should be just falling in the guy's lap.
Yes.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Any other news, AJ?
Oh, the only other thing that I put down as a note is that we now have only one undefeated team, believe it or not, Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, the runs are on the board. Whether you think they're the best team in the NFL or not, it doesn't matter. They're 7-0. And the only winless team now is the Jets at 0-8.
I do like the helmet, though.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, very true.
Yeah,
that's a bit. Jets. I really can't see the Jets winning this year. I I think they play the NFC West, I think, so forget about that.
Do they play the Cowboys? No. That'd help.
Hey, listen,
Sorry,
a quick little game for you. Before this week, so I haven't counted Devontae Adams' numbers from today, but the top 10 wide receivers in the league currently.
Oh, really? You're going to give 10?
Well, just give me some. Who's on top? Who's the best wide receiver in the NFL currently?
Isn't it Calvin Ridley?
No, it is not. In fact, Calvin Ridley is not in the top 10.
Oh, really? What? I thought he was.
No, that's wrong. What are you looking at? Are you looking at PPR? What are you looking at? He has to be.
I'm looking at stats, like NFL stats.
All right, okay. So not fantasy, just
not actual... fantasy, just actual.
Well, that do heads up.
Right.
Heads up.
Not fantasy stats, just NFL stats. Who's the best wide receiver in the NFL currently?
Tyler Lockett.
No, Tyler Lockett is at number 10.
Okay, well, at least I'm in the 10.
Yeah.
Mate, Ben wasn't even in the 10.
Give me another name. Ben, you give me a name.
I needed the parameters, G. I was struggling.
Yeah, that's fair enough too.
Julio Jones, then. I'll stay in Atlanta.
He's not in the top 10. Julio's not in the top 10. No.
Top 10 wide receivers.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, one of them.
DK Metcalf.
DK is not in the top 10.
Okay.
Should we just stay on Falcons and Seahawks players, G, and just keep going?
We just.
Well, I'll tell you who it is. Mind you, this is based on. This is my bad. This is based on receptions, so maybe I sort of sorted it the wrong way. But anyway.
Yeah, that's probably have.
DeAndre Hopkins is at number 1 with 57 receptions, 704 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
Number 2 in terms of receptions, although not in terms of yards.
Is there a point to you doing this?
No. Number two in yards would be Robbie Anderson, but number 2 in receptions is Alvin Kamara. 55 receptions, 556 yards. Stephon Diggs at 3, 54 receptions, 695 yards. And then I'll just read some other names. So we've got Amari Cooper, Tyler Boyd, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, Robbie Anderson, I mentioned, Allen Robinson, and Tyler Lockett rounding out the top 10.
Okay. And the reason that you brought this up was for just no apparent reason.
Yeah, just for some interest's sake, because actually I think it's interesting to reflect on the whole move because.
But how does that look for fantasy, for people playing fantasy, mate? Like, how does that affect? What's the top 10 in fantasy? Is there a correlation between what you just said and fantasy? Probably not.
Well, there would be in PPR because, I mean, when you're talking about 57 receptions by Nuke.
Okay. Also, AJ, I believe that Alvin Kamara is on pace for 125 catches, which would smash Christian McCaffrey's record that he set just last year. So that's definitely a fantasy PPR thing.
That is insane.
And to move it on, here we go to what we're going to talk about this week, because Alvin Kamara might be one of the players that we may discuss.
He may be. Gee, you introduce what the topic is.
Okay, so the topic this week is the reverse of what we did last week. So last week we spoke about put together a team of a fantasy team, quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end of players that when they came out in the draft that we liked and have gone on to be good players. So there's a hit for us. So we put together a team for week 8. So in week 9, what we're going to do this week is the players that we didn't see coming, or not that we didn't see coming, that we weren't as high on as a lot of other people, we should say that, and they have gone on to be very good players in the NFL and in fantasy particular.
It's a pretty dead team, I tell you.
It was either that or we do the players that we have missed on, we have just totally missed on and stuck, but we could put together a couple of actual NFL rosters with the amount of teams players that we've missed on. So
yeah,
we'll try to narrow it down. So do you want to start it off, AJ? I know we got Ben back this week for the second half of this. Yep.
Okay.
We'll go to Ben. Ben's the guest. Who's your quarterback, mate? That's someone that you didn't see coming. I bet you would.
He might steal mine.
I think there's two guys in particular. I think we might not seen coming. But who's yours, Ben?
Well, I mean, it's fairly recent, I guess, and I mean, it's a tough one because it is in a way the jury is very much still out. However, we're talking about quarterback, right?
Yes.
That's yeah. Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Which if you look at him on the ground, I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal, particularly last season. But through the air, there's I guess it's been a conversation ever since he came out of college. That that's the weakness in his game. And has he improved? Well, you were talking, AJ, earlier about the Steelers, being undefeated, and are they the best team in the NFL? I mean, the Ravens, if Lamar Jackson could throw the football like probably any of the top 15 quarterbacks that are currently, leading the fantasy world, I would argue that they would have beaten the Steelers last week. Like he had opportunities. Every week he's struggling to connect with his receivers, and being a good quarterback in the NFL is pushing the ball downfield when you need to, moving it with the chains when you need to, running for the first down when you need to. I think he's maybe one of three, and the issue that clouds things is for fantasy users is that the one gives you a lot of fantasy points, right? Rushing, and he's basically the goal line back there in Baltimore as well. But as a quarterback, we saw it in the playoffs last year. They went down big, and he couldn't bring them back, and that's happened again against the Steelers at the weekend. And I just don't see him taking that next step. I wasn't high on him at all. I wasn't high on him at all coming out. But from a fantasy perspective, I don't own any shares of him. But from a fantasy perspective, he's
making you look like a fool.
Well, I mean, he is and he isn't. Like, I'm not sure.
From a fantasy point of view, he probably. I'm not saying, I'm not only joking about the fool part, but yeah, as a quarterback, I agree. As a fantasy quarterback, mate, you'd be pretty happy to have him on your roster.
Yeah,
he's going to give you those yards. He's going to give you yards on the ground.
Yeah, true.
And
this year though, G, he's currently, and I'm just quickly looking at Yahoo here. He's currently the QB 14. Now, I would have imagined that a lot of people would have taken Lamar Jackson in the first round of fantasy drafts this year.
AJ?
Yes, I did. Ask me how my team is going.
Yeah, number one overall.
Yeah, I'm last. Yep, I'm last.
I believe someone added the other two people that are looking at you right now. One of them told you don't do it.
Yes. Yep, you did.
Yeah. But then again, you would have taken Christian McCaffrey, and you would have been in trouble anyway, wouldn't you? So it's that was a toss up. So
true.
Yeah. Yep. No, Lamar Jackson. Who have you got, AJ?
Oh man,
the quarterback's taken before Lamar Jackson in that draft. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold in order. Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen.
Oh, poor old Josh Rosen.
All right. So one good quarterback went before Lamar Jackson.
Speaking of which.
Ooh.
Josh Rosen. No, I'm just kidding. Josh Allen is my quarterback because I hated him. He was easily my least favorite quarterback that class, 2018. Easily my least favorite. And hasn't he come on?
Yes.
Like, incredibly so. Like, he's defied even in Buffalo, I think there was a lot of, there might even still be percentage of the fan base. It's a bit of a love-hate relationship from what I hear. But you can't deny the results. The guy gets it done.
It's like a good marriage, mate. Love, hate, mate. It's a bit of everything.
Gets it done. He's got, let's see, he's throwing 67% completion rate. He's got 2,174 yards, 16 touchdowns to 5 interceptions this year. He looks great.
Well, the number five quarterback at the moment.
There you go.
179. So what is he? He's 28 behind Patty Mahomes, mate. He's only 27 fantasy points behind Russell Wilson, who everybody says is having a phenomenal year. You know,
that's madness, isn't it?
17 behind Kyler Murray, and everybody's and look what Kyler Murray's doing, and Josh, you know, and even with what Rodgers did today, Rodgers is 186 with an extra game and what he did today with the 4 touchdowns, and Josh Allen's 170, 179.
And I'm not saying Josh Allen's wouldn't be an expensive asset to pick up, but compare the price to, say, a Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Would be very expensive.
Far more.
And you're not talking about much difference in points there.
No, you're not. You're not. So the QB that I missed out on, look, I was going to put down Russell Wilson, but the fact that we weren't doing the rookie scouting when Russell Wilson came out.
Yep.
So in the 2012, we were following it, and we might have been doing the podcast, and I don't even think we're doing the podcast then. 2012.
We may. I don't know.
May have just started. I don't remember. So I have to put down Dak Prescott, who was drafted 135th overall by obviously the Dallas Cowboys in 2016, and when they were trying to move up and get Paxton Lynch, of all players, and I think, is it Connor? Connor was the other one that I think they were trying to get before Dak Prescott. I can't think of his first name. Connor's first name. But since he's been the starter, so his rookie season 2016, he was the number 6 quarterback. 2017, he was the number 11th quarterback. And only 21 fantasy points separated him from being the number 5 quarterback.
Wow.
So that's basically 1.5 fantasy points a game, and he would have been, the number 5 in his second season. 2018, he was the number 10. And 2019, he had the big year, helped his contract, didn't get it. We all know what's happened since then. He was the number 2 quarterback behind the phenomenal year that, the best running back in the NFL who can actually throw a football, and Lamar Jackson had. Yeah. And he was, Lamar Jackson was 78 fantasy points ahead of the number 2 guy in Dak Prescott. That's our year that he had. So, for someone that, they didn't want, and I don't think a lot of people rushed out to get Dak Prescott shares. I don't believe in 2016.
No.
He's given you 6, 11, 10, and 2 in the 4 years that he's been. And this year, unfortunately, no matter how good he started, which was phenomenal, it all means nothing to you now because you don't have him.
Yep. That's a great.
So he was my miss by mile. I think I looked at him, and it's just sort of like it. Yeah, Connor Cook. I thought his first name, Connor. Okay, thanks. Yep. Thanks, Andrew. Champion. So he's my miss. So move on to running back. So we'll let Ben. I was going to say can shoot first, but that's probably not appropriate with everything that's going on in the world right now. It's only a matter of time. Ben, but you can go first.
This one's pretty embarrassing, I reckon.
You're not going to beat me, mate. You're not going to beat me. Unless it's the same guy.
Well, I mean, mine's Derrick Henry.
Not far behind.
You know, I thought, I mean, you know, when he was coming out, you know, he was very much tabled as, you know, a straight up and down guy, you know, and that was about it. He almost, you know, like when you see backs in college, and he almost looked too big, like, you know, just too massive. Like, he was, it looked like he was, you know, like I can't remember the film, but I think it was like Little Giants or something it's called.
Yeah, okay.
The Rick Moranis film. And you know, there's like all these little, you know, little kids. It's about JV football or whatever it's called, and then there's one kid who's like 10 years old, but he's got the body of a, you know, 16-year-old. So his legs are quite small, but he's like this, and he's like running. He just didn't look like he looked like he was carrying too much weight. He was obviously a bulldozer, and that was about it. Well, I mean, you know, you just have to watch him any week since he's come in. I remember when, I think it was it who was there in the Titans? They just signed him from the Cowboys, running back. DeMarco Murray, like, and you know, they still, I think they drafted him in the second round maybe, but it was almost like, you know, DeMarco Murray's going to do all the work, and he might get a bit of, you know, goal line action or whatever. Bit of slops. Yeah. And it was quite apparent, I think, halfway through that year that, you know, he was going to be a real asset in the NFL. I have 0 shares of the guy, so, you know, that tells you how much I missed Murray.
Yeah, no, we spoke about, he was on the team that I actually hit on last week. Yeah. So like I spoke about, like, all the cons he had was the wear and tear at Bama, the upright running style, the slow acceleration, the slow foot speed. Yeah. You know, I had him as a 45-degree cutter. He's not a sharp cutter. He's sort of like, you know, it's just what it is. You know, his pass catching ability, all the things that you need out of a number one running back. He didn't seem to have. Well, a lot of people didn't think that, but like we spoke about last week, is I just watched him come up through high school. I thought, mate, he's just been good all the time. Like, he has to be good. Well, he doesn't at all. But he doesn't have to be good. But I just figured he has to be good. So I get that. So I'm gonna top Ben.
Make me feel better, G.
I'm gonna make you feel better, but AJ knows who I'm gonna talk about.
Well, I've got the same one, G. So anyway,
it's not that I hated him or anything, but
no, I
wasn't convinced, and that's Christian McCaffrey. Coming out of Stanford, drafted 8th overall, so I thought I must be in a bit of trouble here already, because he's drafted by the Carolina Panthers in 2017. His stats at Stanford were pretty good. He had 632 carries, almost 4,000 yards, just 78 yards shy of 4,000 yards, 6.2 yards a carry, and 21 touchdowns. You look at that and go, mate, why do you think he's going to be no good? Because when I looked at him, mate, fantastic between the tackles and great in the open field and pass catcher, and he just had everything. But I just felt he went down far too easily in college. And I thought, mate, these guys are bigger. They're going to hit you harder. Are you going to be able to step up that bigger step? And, mate, he's, without a doubt, mate, he got bigger as a human being.
Yeah.
And just got better. He's just, and you don't know, well, been over here and we're not around it as much, and you don't know his worth ethic, but it is incredible. An incredible worth, and he's proved it. So, look, in his rookie season in PPR, he was the number 2 back, averaged 24.1 points, only pipped by Saquon Barkley, who's the number 1, who actually averaged exactly the same amount at 24.1 a game. The only one who, 80 receptions. That's what wins it for you in PPR, mate, as a running back. I think maybe I've put some liquid paper here, but just let me get the liquid paper out, mate. I'm going to tell you what he was in standard. Let me get the liquid paper. 15. So that's the difference from number 15 running back in standard to number 2 in PPR running.
Oof. Wow.
Because of the catches and the yards from that. The only person who averaged better in his first year was Todd Gurley, who averaged better than everybody at 26.6 fantasy. Mate, what a good year to own bloody Todd Gurley, 26.6. Who ended up being the number 3. In 2019, mate, we saw what he did. He destroyed everybody. He destroyed all backs. He averaged 29.4 fantasy points. The next best per game average was your boy, Ben, Dalvin Cook, at only 20.9. So that's 9 points per game better than the second place guy. And in that year, he's also the number 1 overall fantasy point scorer at any position.
Well, gee, it was the Holy Grail. It was the Holy Grail last year. It was over 1,000 yards receiving and rushing.
Yes. Number 2, he was number 2 in standard, if people that still play that, and we still have a league in that, which I really enjoy, I must admit.
Yeah.
I enjoy the standard league. We should go back to that. Old school. Let's go old school. Scoring, and mate, the only person that beat him that year was the year that Lamar Jackson had last year with all the running. But he was the only running back in the top 10. Everybody else, the other 9 people in the top 10 were all quarterbacks. So that was a massive miss by me, because I have absolutely no shares of Christian McCaffrey. I got him a share this year for the first time in a league, a reboot of a league that we have, AJ, and I am fighting tooth and nail to keep that team, because that's the Assassins League where the bottom half disappear.
Oh, you're doing well.
Go back in a draft. Yeah, I'm doing great, but mate, because I want to hold on to equal first. Thank you.
Oh,
and based on points for, I should be on top, but that's okay. That's okay. I don't know how these things work, but I'm doing everything I can, mate, at the moment to hold this team together, for the simple fact that this is my only share of Christian McCaffrey.
And you get him back, man.
I get him back. Yeah.
The thing about McCaffrey, G, which was interesting, I think this was noted last year, and I just went back and looked at his 2016 sophomore profile at Stanford, and he was listed at 5'11" and 200 pounds. So you know, he's not
huge.
Yeah, well, not what you want when you're looking at picking a guy 8 overall. But last year, I remember seeing him after his rookie year, and he just looked stacked. Like he was, like he'd absolutely turned every inch of that into pure muscle. Now, interestingly enough, he's currently weighing 205, so he's not really, it doesn't look like he's put on a load of muscle. He's just, he's obviously completely tuned his physique and whatever. Yeah. Like he talked about his hard work and his work ethic. It wouldn't surprise me if this guy was using, nutritionists, strength and conditioning guy. Like he's trying to do every little bit to stay on top. So yeah, he's kind of booked the trend, hasn't he? Really,
he has.
Absolutely.
He has. Matt just wants to know who's topping that league, and it's false. It shouldn't be. This I'm gonna complain that it's all rigged, and in that
count.
league.
That's it.
Stop the count. I don't know how who's on top is on top. I don't know how it all works. But anyway, kudos to Matt.
Gee, I also put Christian McCaffrey down, and I'll just add one thing to what you said, is it was also the landing spot. Hated the landing spot. Hated it.
Okay.
Because you think Cam at his in full flight, it felt like a terrible place to go for someone like Christian McCaffrey. You sort of felt like, well, how is he going to be integrated into this offense? It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But what were we to know? It made perfect
obviously.
sense in the end. Yeah,
it did. All right,
well,
Ben.
I think the secret is that they decided to. They went out, they picked him, and they used him exactly the way they should. And NFL teams don't always do that.
Correct.
Yeah. So there we go.
And because we saw what J.K. Dobbins did to one of the best run defenses in the league on the weekend. When you give a good player the ball.
Yep.
And what can happen. Yeah. And even Gus the Bus too.
Yeah. So underrated.
Anyway. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Ben, you're number 2.
We're still on running back, aren't we?
Yes.
Sorry, I just flipped to my list of wide receivers. Hold on. All right. Yeah. Look, my second one's Melvin Gordon. So pretty close to G's heart here.
Mate, the two guys that I had at the top of mine are at the bottom of Ben's.
But you only had Gordon at the top because of the question mark around.
I had him at number 2. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, I had him at number 2. I was wrong. Go, please, Ben.
Well, I mean, it's one of those where there's just no real reason for why I wasn't that high on him. I think it was. It was very much the time when I maybe paid a bit more interest into the specifics around watching tape and stuff around running backs. I was always sort of quarterbacks and wide receivers were my thing when I was looking out of college. So running backs, I was a little bit late to the game in sort of understanding all the different dynamics, around what makes a good running back coming out of college to the NFL. And, there's not many that get picked in the first 2 rounds that don't make it as a genuine running back for at least the first 5 or 6 years. So I felt like Melvin Gordon, I think he came out of Wisconsin, was it, I think? Was generally touted as a guy that could do everything. Right? He could be a 3-down back. He was quick. He was elusive. And I think the only thing that people marked about him was he had a bit of ball security issues, which actually, funnily enough, hasn't improved at all. But he quickly established himself in that Chargers offense. Well, I was a massive, I was a huge Danny Woodhead fan, and I was a huge. I actually loved Ryan Matthews as well. I thought Ryan Matthews was a great running back. And then I started to watch running backs. So, so I had a little bit of bias there that when Gordon was taking it, I was like, I'm not going to be able to see those guys in action. He's going to get all the action. And he's done pretty well, although I thought the Chargers made the right decision, if I'm honest.
I must confess, I find it hard to be a little bit unbiased about it because I compare every Chargers running back to LT. Having watched LT's whole career.
You can't do that, though. You can't.
No, you can't. I know.
You can't do that.
No, you can't. I know. No, I know.
That's comparing every wide receiver plays for the 49ers to Jerry Rice. It's just ridiculous.
Well, you can compare every future Falcons wide receiver to Julio.
I don't compare Calvin. I don't compare Calvin Ridley to Julio. I compare Calvin Ridley to Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's because he's bloody good. But I don't think Melvin Gordon is that good. I think his yards per carry. He got a lot of carries. I think his yards per carry is not good over his career, and I think he's a bit of a volume guy. Plus, he's a jerk. I don't like him.
There you go. All right. Well, AJ, who's yours?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, listen, mine is, I don't know whether mine's really on topic particularly, but I put James Robinson because he was a total.
You didn't get the lead in there, did you?
What's that?
You didn't see the lead in there, did you?
The lead in?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see the lead in.
He's a kind of a jerk. Okay, AJ.
Oh.
Now.
We've lost Ben. We'll see. But anyway, oh yeah. Well, thanks, G. All right. No, I put James Robinson in there. He was a total miss for me this year. But I must confess, I didn't watch any film of him because he just wasn't on my radar at all.
I seriously didn't even think of putting him in this list because maybe I did watch him. I have to go back and have a look, but he doesn't pop into my head.
And it still remains to be seen. He's only halfway through his rookie season, but still, when people were going at waivers, this is even like I usually go hard week 1 waivers. This is even before the season starts. Fournette's just been ditched, and I'm a bit like, meh. I'm not going to spend much. I'll spend maybe I'll chuck 1% on him. I don't really care. I think he's a bit of a jag. Man, what a poor decision. I don't think I've got any James Robinson at all. And, man, the guy's balling out. It's insane.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. No, so that's a fair miss, but I think everybody could probably put down the old James Robinson one.
Probably. Yeah.
There'll be a few people out there, I have no doubt, in the fantasy community that say, hey, no, mate. I remember talking about him, and no one's ever going to remember you talking about him, so no one's going to prove you wrong. But okay, so
they're usually the first people on Twitter who suddenly told you about James Robinson. Like I don't know. I'm trying to scroll down, but I can't find anything.
I'm sure Matt Harmon will probably put his hand up.
Yeah.
I shouldn't.
No, anyway. But he does wide receivers.
Yeah, he does. That's true.
Yeah. So. We heard a lot about Tyler Lockett. We didn't hear too much about Deshaun Hamilton. No. When he had a bad year.
A run just lately.
He's having a bit of a run, is he?
Yeah. Just because I think Tim Patrick's been out. I think that's the problem.
Well,
so anyway.
That's all you need.
Keep going.
So my second wide receiver is another big miss, and that's Alvin Kamara because I just mate, he was in a committee at the University of Tennessee. So, he's sharing the ball with Jalen Hurd and especially John Kelly. So it was just someone, if you look at his stats, you go, okay, only 210 carries, 1,294 yards, 6.2 yards a carry. But, mate, 6.2 yards a carry for a really good running back in college football is it is. It's like 3.5 in the pros. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he did that 16 touchdowns in 2 seasons. So it was only the 2 seasons that he played. And then he went to the combine. And he blew the combine up, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And then everybody, I'm thinking, he looks good. And the combine's not everything. You run around in your underwear. I'm thinking, mate, I didn't get any. I think I've got 1 share of Kamara. Yeah. And maybe because he was just there and I picked him up.
I remember that draft season though. There was quite a bit of buzz.
There was buzz after the. I found, and I feel that most of it was based on what he did at the combine because he just
probably
the combine.
Yep.
So rookie season, he's got stuck behind Mark Ingram, obviously, but he ended up in PPR. He's a number 3 in PPR, averaging 19.6. Fantasy points. 2018, well, Ingram was suspended for the first 4 games, wasn't he? So that was just like handing over the keys.
Yeah.
And he was a number 4 running back, averaged 23.6. 2019, averaged 17.9. He was a number 8 running back in PPR. And this year, he's number 1, averaging 28 fantasy points a game when you got him. It's just
early in his career,
another huge miss.
You couldn't buy him, and we had a bit of a window, I reckon. We had a bit of a buying window, and it's now gone.
That's gone. Finished.
It's gone again.
Last year you had it. He only played 14 games, so you probably figured, mate, if I'm going to get in there, and he had a couple of bad games as well, and thinking, is it over? He should have jumped in there, but he's just exploded again this year, hasn't he?
Yep.
Really. So I've had 2, mate. I've probably had the 2 best, 2 of the top. What? In PPR, I've got the 2 best running backs probably in PPR in my lineup of misses, so I'm doing really well. Can only get better from here. Can only get better.
Gee, if you had to choose right now between Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook, who would you choose?
That's a really hard question because when I pick guys, Ben, I also pick based on especially wide receivers more so because of who the quarterback's going to be. Like it makes me nervous if you pick a young guy and I'm worried about who his quarterback's going to be in 12 months, 2 years' time.
Right.
At the moment, that's a really good question. I must admit, I've never been given full due to Dalvin Cook, to be honest.
Well, I think
I'd probably stick with Alvin Kamara. I think at this point, are we talking about going forward? Aren't we?
Yeah, we are, because I think both of them are probably going to be looking at a quarterback change at some point.
Yes.
I don't think that's going to make a huge difference.
Huge difference, no. It might make more of a difference to Alvin Kamara, maybe, because he's got a far better quarterback.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is because I'm a huge Austin Eckler fan, and last year, and I probably overdrafted him at the start of this year, simply based upon the fact that the quarterback situation was a little bit murky, but you would think whoever it was, whether it was Tyrod or whether it was Herbert, they were probably going to be a bit conservative and lean on Eckler a bit more. Well,
Yep.
Now that's obviously blown out of the water because Justin Herbert can hit anything from anywhere. Anytime, it seems. So, that could happen to one of those guys. I think maybe if someone like Justin Fields, say, goes to the Vikings or something like that, it could affect things. So, I thought that's an interesting question because I imagine, AJ, with Herbert, you probably expected Eckler to be the focal point this year.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. I've got a lot of Eckler as well for that very reason. I still think Eckler is great. So I don't think it makes a massive difference, but it's almost a little bit of a negative having a very good quarterback.
The one person that really comes to mind, Ben, when you mention stuff like that, and we brought up the quarterbacks, is I really like Michael Pittman. And I went and picked him up, and I picked him up. I actually started picking him up before Denzel Mims, who I liked more coming out.
Yep.
Based on the quarterback, but also it really scared me getting all the Pittman shares because I don't like Phillip Rivers, but I know Phillip Rivers will at least throw the ball up to his wide receivers because he's always done that to the guys that he has. He will give them the 50-50 chance, but it also makes me scared about who's going to be there in 2 years' time with Michael Pittman. And his value is just going to. I've got so many shares of him now that is it all, But I figure that Chris Ballard and Wright know what they're doing. I hope.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, so. But that was just a player decision. So we got onto the wide receivers. So Ben, we have to zip through these guys.
Yeah, let's make sure we keep linking things up. So obviously we were just talking about how Sam Darnold can't, he's not going to throw a contested ball up to Denzel Mims. The guy that Sam Darnold made look very good in college is my number one receiver, and that's Juju.
I didn't like him either coming out.
Yeah, just looked, very much one-dimensional in terms of struggled on the, down the sidelines. He's a good route runner, but he didn't seem to have that change of speed, that elusiveness, to beat cornerbacks and make plays. that was the one thing that was big for me, when I was sort of coming out. And, a lot of people were taking him pretty high. I mean, there is the caveat that the Steelers, draft really good wide receivers, and they've certainly got, a hell of a record.
Ryan.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that really...
They've got a good strike rate. They do. They've got a very good strike rate.
But that's got nothing to do with his ability, mate. That's got more to do with...
Noggin.
Yeah. But I think...
Excuse me.
What bothered me the most about Juju Smith-Schuster was he just didn't like the contact at all. He didn't like contact. He didn't seem to want to battle.
Mate, that is the biggest, mate, that you nailed it, mate. That was the biggest problem I had with him. As I said, I didn't think he was tough enough to play in the NFL. Physical enough.
Yeah, and like particularly in that division, like if he's going to the Steelers, you're thinking, man, it's bloody cold. They've got a hell of a lot of tough matchups there against big defenses. Like, how is this guy gonna even cope?
Yeah.
So yeah, Juju for me, I don't think I have any shares of him, and I'm pretty. I mean, again, I think the jury's still out a bit. Is it?
Yes. Yeah, mate, I was going to say that.
But so far, you can't argue with his production.
No, but I've said this on the pod many a time about Juju Smith. He's not a number one receiver. And I think he's proved that he's not a number one receiver. To me, he's proved he's not a number one. I've been proven somewhat right. Antonio Brown was there. Fantastic. When he's the guy, no, not so much. His rookie season, number 23 as a rookie, averaged 13.7 fantasy points a game with Antonio Brown. Only played 17 games. On a 16-game, if he had played a 16-game on his average, he would have been the number 16 wide receiver in his rookie year. Then 2018, we saw he had the breakout year. He was the number 8 guy. 18.6 again, who's not playing with, and Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown disappears 2019, no Brown, 12 games, number 65 wide receiver. Okay, he had the injuries and whatnot, averaged 9.4 on a 16-game average. He still would have only been the number 46 wide receiver. And 2020, I take it he's healthy. I don't think he's...
I think so.
Yeah, he's a number 21, number 29, averaging 13.4. So, yeah, I think we missed a bit on him. But so far, we've only really missed his rookie season and a bit, and the big breakout season, Ben, of 2018, when he's number 8. But outside of that, mate, I think so far we haven't been too far wrong.
Yeah,
and I think the jury is out on very much so now. Yeah, he's still very young, but it's just he needs to go to a team, I think, where he's not the guy.
Well, it's interesting though, because I think it's quite clear that he's not the guy in Pittsburgh. I don't think he's going to be there next year.
No.
So who will take him then? And because him and particularly his agent will be like, number one, this guy's a number one guy. We want number one guy receiver money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like who's gonna stump up for that?
No idea. Patriots. Everybody just ends up in the Patriots. I got no idea. All right, who do you have, AJ?
Mine I think is probably low hanging fruit.
Okay, we'll skip AJ's then.
I put DK Metcalf.
Mate, he was my number 2 guy.
There you go.
He was my second wide receiver. Yeah.
I was very unimpressed by him, and I know it's a bit of a generalization. Like everyone called him one-dimensional, but he was. When you watched his footage, he just saw the same damn routes all the time.
Mate, as you said, mate, if you've got one trick, it's a bloody good trick.
Yeah, that's right.
I've been to Thailand, mate, and some of those show performers can only do one trick, but they're bloody good tricks.
David Copperfield can make tons of shit disappear. It's a good trick.
I like the tricks that I've seen, but that's okay. If you want to go and see David Copperfield, that's fine. But mine are far more entertaining. But look, I had the same guy, mate. Like coming out of Old Missy, I remember watching him. 21 games, 67 receptions, 1,228 yards, 18.3 yards a catch, 14 touchdowns. But yeah, it was just the same thing over and over again. I'm just thinking, his rookie season, he was number 33 wide receiver, 11.7 average. And now this year he's the number 4, averaging 20.6. He's the third highest average behind Devontae Adams and his teammate Tyler Lockett. And it's just and
how good was the Buda Baker rundown?
Yeah, but he's turned into a freak.
Yeah, he has.
Like size-wise and just the way he looks and, mate, there's something about, seriously, it's got nothing to do with how well you play football, but there's something about having the black visor that just gives you that extra dimension of mystique, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's Mad Max stuff, isn't it? It's Mad Max stuff. That's what it is. He looks like he's got the grill on the front of the car and he's ready to roll. Like,
yeah, mate. It's just,
But
and seriously, what did he clock? 20 something kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
And like he wasn't running someone who was slow. Buda Baker's not exactly slow.
Yeah.
And he gave him.
Flip the script. I'm going to flip the script on you, mate, because this, he is one guy that I own a hell of a lot of, and I just loved him coming out. So, just
well done.
Big frame, competitiveness. I read a lot about how he just would do anything and everything that guys asked him, and and particularly in Seattle, that's going to happen, right? They get their guys playing. They coach them up. They use them wherever they can. And man, that wide receiver room up there now is seriously good. I even like David Moore. I think they've done a great job with all their receivers.
Although I will take you to task. The Seattle draft war room, they can't bloody pick a player, any position. I don't care what position. They can't pick a player to save themselves. DK would be the biggest success they've had in 10 years. Oh, apart from Russ, of course. But, man, they can't.
That's not a bad one to get right, mate.
No, I know. But, man, they just waste their picks on just all sorts of, they bloody reach on guys. They could get rounds later and who knows? Anyway,
DK,
Mike, man, amazing.
Well done,
Tyler Lockett was a 3rd round pick. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, we like Tyler. We like Tyler coming out.
Okay, tight end. Ben, who you got, mate? Who's your tight end?
Oh, I didn't pick a tight end. Anyway, Ben, you probably picked a tight end. Did you?
I'll give you a tight end.
You start, G, because I feel like mine. Anyway, you start.
Well, look, mate, I put George Kittle down, but he's not. He's not. No, I'm not done yet, mate. He's not playing. He's already played. He played today, so I can't use him. But George Kittle, it's quite unusual because I watched George Kittle play with CJ Beathard, and I was watching these guys. I said, mate, if it wasn't for CJ Beathard, what he was doing, and this other guy, George Kittle, this team would suck. This offense is terrible. But yet, I looked at George Kittle and said, yeah, mate, he's big, he's strong. Mate, he does everything you want. But it just, for me, for some stupid, it just didn't click that he'd be a good tight end. Yeah. I don't know why. I seriously don't. So I went with someone who's playing this weekend, and Mark Andrews was the same. It was sort of like I didn't see the forest for the trees, basically.
I like Hayden Hurst better.
So did I. And maybe that's why. I have no idea why, but he drafted out of Oklahoma by the Ravens. Obviously, he's an 86 pick overall. And as you just said, AJ, he was the 2nd tight end that they took in that draft after Hayden Hurst was at number 25.
Yep.
And then when he started his rookie season, he's behind Hurst, he's behind Nick Boyle, Max Williams.
Yeah.
And the season starts, and he was the number 4th on the depth chart. Mate, that lasted all of 5 minutes in his rookie season, didn't it? Mate, his rookie season, he's the number 17 tight end overall, averaging 6.8. And then 2019, boom, from hero to zero, from zero to hero, number 5, averaging 13.8.
He parked his car and he beat out Max Williams.
Mate, and that's it. Yep. and even this year he's the number 7 overall, averaging 11.5.
It's having a bit of a down year, but I think that's kind of on Lamar.
I think that's a lot more on Lamar.
Yeah.
But that's I really wanted to put George Kittle, because that's the big one I miss, especially when, like I said, it was staring in my face when I was watching him, saying, geez, this guy's pretty good. This guy's keeping the offense going.
Yep.
Trying to think, was it Iowa? He was out at Iowa, George Kittle?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Jeepers.
Hey, Siri.
So Siri. I don't know what this thing's called, Bixby or something.
What college did George Kittle go to?
But, Ben, who do you have?
Well, I mean, I had David Njoku. I mean,
no, we're talking about good tight ends.
Yeah, well, that's why, because I thought about it and I was like, but and let me preface this on saying, so I just think back to that rookie draft, and there was
Iowa.
a lot of
George Kittle was at Iowa. Sorry,
Iowa. Yeah,
Is that what I said?
yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So there was a lot of hype about him, and it was a time when I think tight ends were pretty thin on the board. 2017 draft, like it wasn't, and obviously the Browns were the Browns, but I mean I didn't like his his hands were terrible in college, and I just remember through the draft process, he's a red zone guy, and he's gonna get a lot of looks in that offense, and they're just gonna play him week in, week out, use him as a receiving tight end. Like, it was all that jazz. And I mean, the other guy in that draft that I kind of really loved more than him was Jonnu Smith, and I think he ended up dropping to like the 3rd round. And I was just like, oh, I'm not, why are people talking about Njoku so much? And so I didn't take any of him. I've got plenty of Jonnu Smith, so I'm happy with that. But I think generally people would have drafted him quite highly, and for the first year or so, it looked pretty good. And then in that Hard Knocks, he just looks like he couldn't, catch a fly. So
yeah, look, mate, with Njoku, I think send him to another team. Yeah, and I think if he lands on the right team, you're going to see a totally different football player.
I thought it might happen.
Maybe not this year, but maybe there's always the end of the year. We're not that far. We're halfway through. So
with Bryant coming on, you'd think they would, but anyway.
Yes, yeah. So that was what was that draft we had? OJ Howard, Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Gerald Everett.
Yep.
Jonnu Smith, the ones that are relative. George Kittle. I just want to say his name. Jeremy
what a
Sprinkle.
tight end draft is that? That's a good tight end draft.
Well, yeah. that was my point. There were so many of them that year that people were overdrafting them and hyping them up, and it was trying to get the right one.
So there we go. AJ, you going to throw one in there, or that's it?
No, I don't have any.
All right, mate. Well, let's bring this puppy into port, dude.
Sounds good. Well, listen, some big names in that lot, just to show that we're fallible.
I reckon I win. As the biggest loser tonight, without a doubt. I reckon Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara, and based on this year, DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Probably get me. I'm not going to put Dak Prescott in there because it's not that I didn't like him. I just probably didn't watch enough of him.
Right.
The other guys I saw and
well, listen,
screwed it.
This is one of the reasons why we really like this game, because it's always subverting our expectations.
Yes.
You know, we watch the film, and when we're right, we celebrate. But when we're wrong, it's like, wow, didn't see it coming. But also, players subvert our expectations. It's not like that they leave college and that's it. They don't grow or change, because they can learn. They can change their body shape. They can go into particular offenses that suit their styles. It's such a moving ball.
Yeah, there's probably far better masking agents in the NFL than there is in college.
Exactly, better drugs. Perish the thought. Well, listen, Ben, thank you so much for joining us, and it's always great to chat to you on a Friday evening.
Good to have you in here, mate.
And always good to chat with all of you. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy your Friday.
Thanks, Mum.
Noah's mates tuning in this week, G?
I think they tune in for to hear if they get a call out, and if they don't give them a call out in the first 30 seconds, they're bailing the back on Call of Duty.
Oh, it's that generation, G. No staying power.
What are you playing tonight?
GTA.
GTA, Grand Theft Auto tonight.
That says it all.
Yeah.
That says it all. Yeah. That generation, Grand Theft Auto. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
And what do you say? You can't turn around to them like our parents used to say, and that's going to get you nowhere, because there's pro circuits these days in video games. So people are making millions of bucks.
Well, that's true. That's true. Well, listen, let's wrap this up. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy your Week 9 NFL action. Let's hope things just keep on. Let's hope things keep on. We know the COVID things are sort of ramping up. Let's hope NFL stays on track. Let's just hope that happens, because that's a nice escape from other things that are happening in the world. Andrew, thanks for joining us. Might have to join GTA next week, he says. Thanks, everybody. On behalf of Ben, G, and myself, thanks for joining us. Have a great week. Catch you later. What?
Next time.
See you next time. Okay.
I've only been doing this for like 6 years.
See you next time. All right.